Welcome to your new home for football, where you'll get real international coverage from real football fans. We're talking Brighton, England, Birmingham, England, London, England, Glasgow, Scotland, Dublin, Ireland, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and St. Louis, Missouri. You'll get coverage from all the big time leagues. Join in on live day match watch-alongs. Enjoy live football debates. Nothing but all things football. Catch us live 8 PM UK time on Thursdays on all major platforms, or listen to us the next day on the Sports Social Podcast Network. This is Football Nation, your home for all things football.
Hey guys, this is Football Nation, your home for all things football. I'm joined today by Crazy Boom and King. How are you guys?
Good. I'm good.
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Yeah. How's your week's been?
Good. I've not done too much this week. Watched the football. Got absolutely heartbroken at the end of an Arsenal game, and then had so much joy in the semi-final.
Yes.
So highs and lows this week for me.
Yeah, I'm very similar, but I'm nursing a bit of a hangover tonight. It was our work Christmas do last night, and I might have drunk a little bit too much. So
Gone on the bevs. 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, 4.
Yeah. So what about you, King?
Yeah, pretty uneventful week for me, rather.
We will go straight into it then and go over the games. So, starting off with Leicester City 2, Brighton 2. My first comments was, what a first goal by Brighton, and on the second as well. And Leicester played quite well. Maybe turning a corner. What's your thoughts, King?
Yeah, I think it's a good result in the grand scheme of things. With I know Brighton aren't really at the form they were at early season, but they're still on good form. Seen sixth in the Premier League. So Leicester team.
I don't know if you look at their form. I think they've been better under.
Brighton made a mistake in this game. Their mistake was bringing Welbeck back into the team over Evan Ferguson, the Irishman. We saw when he came on in the second half, he completely changed the momentum again into Brighton's favor, which led to his beautiful equalizer for Brighton.
Definitely a decent point for Leicester, though, being they've only had 1 win in 6, and I think there's 4 losses in that period as well. Only had
they needed that, especially on James Maddison's return.
Yeah, and 2 shots on target, 2 goals. Was it James Maddison's return, was it?
Yeah, he came off the bench.
I'm hearing he could be maybe going in the January window.
Yeah. I think there's very high chance of him going and potentially Ben. I'm surprised no one's gone in for Tillemans yet with his contract situation. You can get him very cheap. You can get him for like 15-20 million in this window, which is very cheap.
But Danny Ward still can't keep a clean sheet.
If I'm right, the Matoma goal for Brighton was a cracker.
Yeah, it was. But the thing is, that's what they already have a replacement for That's why they easily let Trossard leave, because they literally have a squad that can replace.
Yeah.
They lose a player, they'll find some random youngster just to replace him. They'll spawn him in. I don't know. Go this guy's the next best thing.
And you've never heard of him in your life before.
Exactly.
I was looking earlier at the transfer news, and what a change in Lamptey. Only a few. Like last year, he was having such a good season. He was linked with big moves. Now he's linked to going Sporting on loan.
Yeah, as a replacement for Pedro Porro going to Spurs.
Yeah, I was listening to Carvey on Sky Sports today in Darmish. Yeah, and they were saying that it's unlikely Brighton are willing to let him go on loan, even though he hasn't.
The thing is, Brighton only let players go for big money.
Yeah, because 6-8 months ago, we were potentially looking at a right back. I mentioned him, and I just can't believe the difference that what's happened in 8 months from.
I know Brighton rejected bids two 55 mil plus bids for Caicedo from Chelsea. They fully rejected.
Yeah.
Their official stance on that as of this afternoon is he's not for sale. They're hoping that he's only got 2.5 years left on his deal, but they're hoping that they can tie him down. If not, they may look to move him on maybe in the summer, but he's at the minute
because I
not
know
for sale in January.
Arsenal, Chelsea, and Liverpool have all looked at Caicedo.
Got a comment in the chat saying Burnley are trying to sign Spurs' Spencer. Yeah, he's not played much.
I mean, in fairness, he needs to leave. He needs to leave Spurs. So Burnley is a good move for him. He needs to leave.
A little line on that is if they get Pedro Porro in, they are looking to let Jed Spence go out on loan.
Yeah.
Jed Spence sees himself very much as a Premier League footballer and would like to go on loan to a Premier League club. Maybe if there's no other Premier League clubs interested, he may look at top half Championship sides. But
they're going to be a good Premier League side next season. So
as I've reported the other day, he wants to try and stay in the Prem if possible.
Yeah, Burnley
we'll see how that develops.
Company.
Yeah.
Next game, we go to Mr. King and his beloved Aston Villa, winning 1-0 over Southampton. You want to kick us off on that, King?
Yeah. Villa continuing their great form under Emre. I don't think we've lost an away game since we've come in, which before I don't think we'd won an away game. So it's good stuff. Currently sitting top of the form table.
You had a bit of a fear in that one with Southampton, looking like they took the lead first of all before your goal.
Yeah, a bit of a contentious decision. I didn't actually watch the game, so I haven't been very well. But I'm hearing that, to be honest, the goal probably should have stood for Ward-Prowse. So we probably got away with it. But in football, you always need a bit of luck.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it doesn't. We very much controlled the game with, I think, 65% possession. We had more chances. I just don't think we could take them. I know they had an earlier goal ruled out for offside from Che Adams, I think it was, but that was definitely...
And selling in Ollie Watkins stepped up quite well.
Yeah, and they've got the young new guy, Jan Duran.
Yeah.
From Columbus Crew, is it?
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
He's meant to be very talented. Apparently Liverpool, Chelsea, Man U, the likes of those teams were looking at him in the summer. So I don't know much about him myself, but it'd be interesting to see if he can step up with only us having one striker. I did hear that we was in for Moussa Dembele, who's out of contract in the summer for a £3 million bid, but I haven't heard anything else since then.
Yeah, I've heard a few rumours. I saw that rumour,
I also heard that we missed out on signing Nico Williams from Bilbao. We was going to activate his £45 million release clause, but he doesn't want to leave Bilbao because he's a Basque player and they're very much settled in where they are. He doesn't want to relocate. So there is other names floating around, but we'll have to wait to see what the last few days of the window bring.
Yeah, that'd be good. So I really like Williams. I've been quite surprised for a while that he's still at Bilbao, but if he's settled, he's settled. Do you have anything to add on that game, Boom?
No, other than Southampton very much still at the moment relying on James Ward-Prowse. They just gotta hope he doesn't get injured because they're resting all their hopes at the moment of getting out on James Ward-Prowse of this relegation battle.
Yeah, definitely. Next, we had West Ham 2, Everton 0, the game that got Frank Lampard the boot. It's been coming for a while, so he has been sacked now.
He looked the void of hope, Frank Lampard, throughout that entire game.
I'd be happy to get out of Everton, to be fair. They are.
He looked in the second half. I was looking at Frank Lampard. He did not look like he had any clue of how to turn that around.
Yeah. What do you think, King?
Jared Bowen really good in that game.
I feel a bit sorry for him, to be honest. I mean, I don't normally feel sorry for Big Fat Frank, but the mess is from the top of the club to the bottom of the club at the minute, isn't it? And I think he's been the scapegoat. I think they had a lot of possession, but when I have watched Everton this season, and I don't tend to watch Everton a lot, but when I have, they've controlled games in the most part by possession. And one game that brings me back to, I think, was Wolves over Christmas. They should have won that game, but they couldn't take their chances. And when you've got a team that's out of form and out of morale and that aren't taking chances when they have them, in this game against West Ham, they didn't create nothing.
It was a Wobie versus West Ham.
Yeah. So when you're in a form like that, then I can't see them staying up at the minute.
They tried to bring in Dan Juma to maybe put a bunch of energy, but he went to Spurs last minute.
Apparently, Frank Lampard had a massive say in that transfer. It was him that did a lot of negotiating.
In his interview, he was talking about Frank Lampard during the Everton interview that we're never going to see, but that was the rumor that he mentioned Frank Lampard a lot in his decision.
Yeah, so I think Frank maybe talked him into coming, and as soon as he was gone, that was it. He was like, "All right, I'm not going there. The club's a mess." Right?
Yeah, apparently the medical is done and everything.
But Onana staying for them because he doesn't want to leave them in the mess that they're in is very good.
Yeah.
There was also all the video work and stuff done for Dan Juma as well, so it was quite far along. Onana might be staying, but how about Anthony Gordon jumping ship?
He's on strike. He's apparently just now told Everton he's not returning to the club at all.
He did this in the summer as well. This is the second window. He's just not turned up for training.
He's not been in for 3 days. The first day
apparently he's now told them he's not coming back.
Yeah, the first day was arranged by the club for him not to be in, but the second and third they don't know. And
this is a kid who's been at Everton since he was 11.
Yeah. It's horrible to see this sort of stuff, isn't it? When the clubs put a lot of effort into the young lad, training him, they've given him first team opportunities. He's coming. I think he did well the back end of last season.
Yeah, he did well, scoring big goals against like United, Arsenal, all of them.
But fair play to West Ham, David Moyes. I think this was Al Sakiko.
David Moyes needed this for his own. He claims he has all the support from the owners, but just for the press to get off his back for a small bit, he needed this.
Yeah.
Jared Bowen announcing before the game that his missus is pregnant with twins and goes and slots in a double.
2 goals for the two kids.
What can you say?
Where do you think Everton go from now? The rumour is they're talking to Bielsa and they're also talking to Ancelotti's son.
I think both decisions are stupid.
Apparently, Deutsch and Bielsa are favourites. Bielsa's the chairman's number one person he wants to go for. Bielsa's people and Bielsa flew to London to have face-to-face talks, but apparently the deal is a long way off because Bielsa has reservations. So I don't think Bielsa.
He's worried about the pace of the team apparently because his system you need quite a lot of pace.
I don't think Bielsa will keep. If they hire Bielsa, I think that's the worst decision for Everton at this moment. Next season, if they stay up, then Bielsa could probably be good then. But to keep yous up in a league, Bielsa's just not it in my opinion.
But whilst eating Modena Carve and Darmesh were on Sky, and they were saying Bielsa also wants $200,000 a week wages.
Jesus. Nice.
So, Sean Dyche would keep you up, in my opinion. He's done it.
I think Sean Dyche is the appointment.
Ancelotti's son is a terrible idea. But you just said we had Ancelotti. Might as well have his son. That's what they're going.
Do you think the next person that goes in there, say if it's Dyche, do you think he's able to keep them up? I mean, Everton.
I think you need someone like Dyche that could literally get the fight back in them straight away because they already have 2 players in that team that know Dyche's system in Dwight McNeil and Tarkowski. They will know what Dyche wants them to do.
On paper, that he's kept with the worst budget in Premier League history for a long time, and he kept what he done with Burnley is really underrated. And I think on paper that is a better squad.
They have the players to play Dyche Ball's football.
I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I do agree. But something I have to put there is Dyche built a Burnley squad over years. That squad was together. That squad had morale from coming up, from getting top finishes in the Premier League to even getting European finishes. Deutsch could potentially be going into an Everton team that's lost 6 of the last 8 games with 2 draws in. That's only won 3 games all season. I think their top goal scorer is Damari Gray on 4 goals. Their team's obviously lacking in morale. It's lacking in form. I think
when you look at the team he had, like Chris Calvert-Lewin is better than Chris Wood that he used to have.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he is on paper better, but on form from this season since he's come back from injury. He's been that's just what worries me.
The new manager boost is still in effect if you get
Are they in too much of a hole? Like with all this like ownership business and stuff that's going on around the club.
And the fans calling for the board to be sacked.
That happened at Villa when we got relegated. That's a massive cloud over the club. That affects players.
And players are being stopped by fans being questioning them.
I just don't know if Everton are in too much of a hole. But we're only halfway through the season, and they're only 2 points off safety. So you can't rule them out until they're actually mathematically down. But I just think it's going to be difficult for whoever goes in there, from my point of view.
Yeah. And next we had Manchester City 3, Wolves 0. Haaland is back against 10-man Wolves, scoring a hat-trick. Over to you, Boom.
They didn't go down to 10 men.
Would I have 10 men?
I have no idea what it is.
I don't know.
They had 11. They played like they had 10 men, though, Wolves, to be fair to you. But, it's just Haaland scores a hat-trick again. He does it now and again. He had that little stint where he wasn't playing as well, but ever since the second half of the Spurs game, he's gotten back into robot mode, and he punished Wolves today. He wanted to prove to people that he hasn't been a fraud, like I called him in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
He wanted me to not have him as my player that's dead to me this week. That's what he wanted. And I just heard that right.
I just heard that right, Mr. Boom. You're calling Haaland a fraud.
I did the last 2 episodes because he hasn't scored.
Wow.
Yeah, he has been off the last few games. And
he was the player dead to me in the last week. So this week he's come back.
It's obviously not been picking Boom points up on FPL, has he?
No, that's why he was dead to me. But that's why he was a fraud. He wasn't getting points. He got points this week though, so he's back in the good books.
He turned up this week, but I still stand with what I say. I think togetherness as a team, they played better without Haaland the last few seasons, because with the false 9,
they're still adjusting to having the main striker there, and they haven't figured out how to do it. He will score goals and win you games like he did today, but like in certain games, they haven't figured out how to manage with the thing. But in this game, even Kevin De Bruyne came back to win an assist. He's gone missing for the last few weeks.
Yeah,
I agree with that point. I think they are still adjusting to having a main focal point up there because they haven't had it since Aguero. And I think when it looks good, I think Man U, going back to when they played Man U, they demolished them 5-0. But
a 6-3, but yes.
6-3, sorry.
Yeah.
He scored, was it 4 hat-tricks in a row earlier in the season or something? Yeah. You know, when it goes through stages like that, they look unstoppable. But I think since the World Cup, I think a few players have been suffering from a bit of a hangover. And I don't think you can blame just Haaland for that, although he has been a bit quieter.
Yeah. I did see Pep also hinting at potentially a future move back to Barcelona today in the future.
And Pep, after the Spurs game, told his team that they had no passion whatsoever.
Yeah, he went in
to win leagues, and it seems to have worked for the Wolves game. That going in on this entire team.
Yeah, he did definitely go in. And next we had Arsenal 3, Manchester United 2. Really good game. Yeah, me and Boom did the watch along for this. And over to you, Boom. Good game, but I think Arsenal deserved it.
I listened to a lot of Arsenal fans assess the game, and they did say, a lot of them, that this was United have been the toughest opponent that they've faced this season at the Emirates, because the game was very open. We United took the lead through a beautiful Marcus Rashford thing. It's just the equalizer for Arsenal came from a bit of sloppy marking from Wan-Bissaka, but the man hasn't played too much football this season. He's only started to play week in, week out again, Wan-Bissaka, because of Dallow's injury. So, unlike Roy Keane, I cut Wan-Bissaka a little bit of slack.
Roy Keane doesn't let anyone
but
slack.
Beautiful response from Martinez after Saka scored a worldie. There was 2 worldies in the game, but the 2 most informed.
It still made me laugh. Martinez from a header in the box.
And as you were saying on the watch along, you said get it to the tall man in Weghorst. We got it to the tiny man, and the tiny man scored from the header.
Yeah.
And then just at 2-2, it looked like it could go either way. I said that on the watch along, but fair play to Arsenal. They look like if you want to win titles, these are the games you have to win, even if it doesn't look like you are going to win at one point. It looked like it was going to be a draw because it was getting into added time, but they found a way, which is what you need to do to win titles. So
yeah,
they look really. And Ketia has done really well for himself recently.
Yeah, I literally said on the watch along, he's doing really well, and like 10 seconds later, he scored. What did you think about the game, King?
Yeah, it was a good game. I watched most of it. I missed, I think, the first little bit, but Marcus Rashford's on good form, scoring most games now, which is really good from an England perspective.
He's 10 goals in 10 games, apparently.
Eddie
Southgate
and
is
Ketia
torn a new one for not playing him.
Eddie and Ketia are getting a double, which was nice to see from Arsenal fans' perspective. I feel like Man U sort of dug in a little bit towards the end, and Arsenal turned the screw a lot. You could always tell that if there was a goal to win the game, it was going to be an Arsenal goal.
You see, they still had a little bit left in the tank. We wasted our tank was up near the end.
Yeah.
We were holding on for the 2-2 at a time.
Sinchenko, really good performance. Odegaard again, really good performance. You've got obviously Saka and Martinelli. Standout performance.
Yeah, the only player that didn't really do well for Arsenal in that game was Ben White. He struggled in that. It's why they took him off at halftime.
But I definitely think Arsenal probably deserved the win on the stats and stuff and the chances they had.
Yeah, I think the only problem. I think the only problem we. Sorry.
Go on.
I think the only problem we have is like. Me and Boom were both looking at half time, and the only like subs that jumped into head was Giannacho coming on and Fred.
Garnacho and Fred were the only two we could have done to change anything.
That's what I was just about to say. That Arsenal and Man U, although obviously it's a massive rivalry in the Premier League, you two teams at the minute are fighting for different positions. They're in a race with Man City for the title. You're in a race with Newcastle and that for the top 4 position to cement your top 4. So I wouldn't be disheartened about losing this game. But I think the thing is Arsenal had people on the bench that they could bring on.
Trossard looked quite well when he came on.
Whereas Man U's bench was like Garnacho, Elanga, Manio, Palestri.
Even Terry Henry said it in a post that this was a team 6 months into a rebuild versus a team 3 years into their project.
Different stages,
Yeah, definitely. Moving on, we've got a few games to gloss over before our Bundesliga roundup we have this week for you, which was a very exciting week in the Bundesliga. So the games to run over: Liverpool 0, Chelsea 0, battle with 10th place. Anything to add on?
Who would have thought the mid-table battle would end in a draw?
Well, I watched this game. This was the lunchtime kickoff, and it was so boring. You had Norwich Coventry on at the same time, which ended up 4-3. And I wish I'd have watched the other game.
Mudryk looked lively when he came on, though. To be fair to him,
he had one chance, and I think he made the wrong decision.
I mean, when I say he looked lively, he at least was running around the place, which is fair enough compared to the rest of them.
I don't know whether I'm correct in saying, but haven't the last 3 or 4 Liverpool Chelsea games ended?
Yes.
Goalless or very low scoring.
You are correct. You are correct because their last few finals have ended in a 1-1 draw in each one of them.
Yeah, so you knew that there wasn't going to be loads of goals, and it's 2 teams really out of form in the Premier League, isn't it?
Exactly.
Not in the best form.
And Liverpool are relying on playing Gakpo, it's usually a winger, as a forward in that game.
Saying that, he has played He was being trained as a striker by.
Yeah, but he wasn't ready in a full
Nistelrooy.
development. Van Nistelrooy even said he wasn't fully ready for the striker position, and they were also playing Bajatic or whatever, the young midfielder in this game, and Milner as a right back again.
But Stefan Bajacic, whatever his name is, he looks decent, but you can tell by the quality in the game. There was the early goal disallowed for offside, which I think was just offside. But both
from Kai
teams
Havertz,
had 15 and 11 shots, but only 2 and 3 of those was on target. So
but Klopp was very happy with the clean sheet. He said little steps. He's happy with the little steps, is what he kept quoting in his press conference. And he made reference, said in his press conference after, he said, "Well, Arsene Wenger lost his 1,000 game. At least I didn't lose."
I did see that. I am seeing, after everything he's done, I am seeing a bit of people turning on Klopp, which I think is wrong.
It's the 7-year theory of Klopp that is, after every 7 years, he struggles and eventually leaves a club.
Yeah.
And this is a 7th year at Liverpool, so people are kind of just bringing up that theory that after 7 years, Klopp is useless.
I understand that they've dropped off a lot from what they've been like over the last few years, but they have had a lot of injuries.
And they have a very aging squad too. Their squad is not exactly the youngest.
The biggest factor in this downturn of form is the selling Mane. Mane and Salah's partnership has been unstoppable for years. And I think Mane actually did most of the legwork in that partnership. They haven't got that person to set off the press and stuff anymore.
I think Mane did more of the work than Salah. Salah got the headlines.
Even when when they first started playing together, you had Firmino setting the press. As Firmino started taking a backseat role, Mane came into that sort of role. And even though Mane would get the goals whilst doing that, Salah always did get the headlines, and I feel like maybe they sold the wrong one.
And you got to look at their players aren't getting, most of their midfield is like 30 years old, touching on like 32, 33. They're not exactly the quickest at this point.
I'd love to see how many times they've started the same three in midfield this season, because I don't think they're creating any partnerships with their pairings.
Because their main midfield last season was Thiago, Fabinho, and Henderson, but they've kind of just been swapping Fabinho out because he's not been on the best, but they've been swapping him out with like a bunch of other people. Like Jordan Henderson started this game on the bench.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
And Trent. No one knows what Trent is these days.
Moving on, we had Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 1, Crystal Palace.
Good results for Forest.
Yeah, good result. Bournemouth picked up a little bit of form recently. And then we had Leeds.
The former, I will say about that Bournemouth game, the former Bournemouth player in Sturridge scored for Forest, so and he did celebrate, so obviously there's no love there between
them. I'll gloss over a few games and then we can say if there's any points on them. So Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle 0, Leeds 0, Brentford 0, Fulham 0, and Spurs 1. So is there any points on these games?
Palace did very well to keep both United and Newcastle quiet pretty much in the last 2 games. Very good for them after their bad run of form before that. Leeds are still terrible, which is why they're trying to get Weston McKennie out of nowhere with the Juventus situation.
Yeah,
and Tottenham, it's just Harry Kane.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think of those games, King?
Fortunately, I didn't have the pleasure of watching them, which is good. But great result for Spurs. Fulham have been doing so well this season. Yeah. Spurs, I think, just had maybe 2 results now that might be looking on turning their season around a bit because they had been slumping. But unfortunate for Fulham, but a great result for Tottenham. Leeds, Brentford. I didn't watch it. A few Leeds fans I've heard say they had absolutely shitloads of chances. Sorry about the language. They actually had 9 shots on goal through the whole game. So I don't know where they're coming from, but yeah, I'm glad I didn't watch that boring 0-0. I watched
they had 5 on
Newcastle.
target to Brentford's like 0 on target.
That's what they must mean by absolutely loads. So, but Newcastle Palace, I think Newcastle were unlucky not to get the win. They're probably maybe a couple of players off, maybe cementing that European position this season. I think like these sorts of games, if they want to be getting top 4, they need to be winning these.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of draws at the moment, aren't they?
But I'm glad Palace frustrated them. Like if they annoyed me during the midweek and didn't annoy Newcastle the weekend, I would have been annoyed about.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I just feel like from a Newcastle fan perspective, they're doing great to sit in 4th, and they're being linked with obviously Anthony Gordon and whoever. But they're only 3 points ahead of Tottenham. I know they've got a game in hand, but if they can't beat teams, I'm sure at the start of the season they struggled to beat teams like Palace. They drew 0-0,
and they're coming into February. They're coming into the big games again against City and Liverpool and all of them.
You've got to really be beating the teams in the lower half of the table and mid-table to get top 4 from my perspective. So, but that's it from that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Newcastle will get it because I think Spurs might crumble a bit because it's basically confirmed that Spurs aren't giving Conte a new contract, and that could unravel. Which isn't if you know your manager's not there next season when you're fighting for Europe, it could be a bit demoralising. So we now have the Bundesliga roundup. What a week in the Bundesliga we had last week. So let's start with Dortmund and Dortmund's 4-3 win over Augsburg. Bellingham back. What a goal by Reina, but what a game. Did you want to start us on this, Boom?
Yeah, it's amazing. It was a back and forth game. Like a good goal by Bellingham. He was sensational in his first goal. But then credit to Augsburg. They came back, equalized, and then suddenly the game was alight. Schottleback scored to make it 2-1 for Dortmund. Good defender that. Yeah. Then they go Schottleback, and then it was 2-2 after that. Augsburg came back again. And then once again, Dortmund take the lead. And you think, finally, they'll hold on to this. Then no! Once again, Augsburg come back with David Kalina. Decent goal from that man. And you think, it's going to be 3-3 now. But then Giovanni Reina, our own Gomi's favorite player that he kept mentioning in the whole World Cup of why they weren't playing him. A bunch of controversy with that during the World Cup. But a beautiful goal from him to finally sealed the deal for Dortmund, and an assist from Bellingham.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where Bellingham's going in the summer.
And they go in this. Dortmund currently in the table sit 5th, so they're starting to look back up to the champ. They did before the World Cup. They were dipping out of being anywhere near the Champions League place, but they're starting to now jump back up towards the top 4.
That top 6 is very tight in the Bundesliga this season. Do you have anything to add on that game, King?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Next, we had Wolfsburg 6, Freiburg 0. What a game! What a performance by Wolfsburg. They're on really good form.
What a demolishing of Freiburg. They were Freiburg before the World. Both teams before the World Cup were on a good run of form. That's going into this game, so it'd be interesting to see. It was always interesting to see if one of the teams lost their run of form, but Wolfsburg managed to keep their run of form, and they absolutely, from the first minute, scoring in this game, and they kept it up to just demolish.
Yeah, definitely.
Freiburg.
It was a very
for a team that was in the bottom 2 early on in the season to now in 7th, looking up at the table with their run of form. Very good to them. They're even close to taking Freiburg's position, and they're currently 6th. They're going into the top 6. Wolfsburg on their current form.
Yeah, definitely. They are playing really well. They've got the old Bayern manager Kovic there now, and he's doing really well there. Yeah, do you have anything to add on that, King?
No, not really. Just that Wolfsburg are on really good form. 6 wins out of 8 with 2 draws in there. I think you said about the top 6 really close. It's only 2 points that separates the top set with 7th place from the 6th place. I think it's 31 on 6, 29 on in 7th. Them and Leipzig are the most informed teams in the Bundesliga at the minute. I think it's been a great title race so far with Union Berlin and Freiburg being up there for so long. Hopefully one of them can stick in the Champions League spots after being so good so far through the season, but it's going to be a hell of a race.
Yeah, and talking about the title race, that goes right into our next game, and that's RB Leipzig 1, Bayern 1. Bayern with the first goal. A bit of controversy around a potential red for the centre-back.
Upamecano.
But it was just a yellow. Obviously, he used to play
He wasn't deemed to be the last man in that situation.
Yeah, and then Leipzig equalised quite quickly after that. So, keeping that fight going, what did you think of that game, boys?
Bayern looked very well in the first half, but their same problems crept up to them in the second half. They just at the moment don't look like confidently finishing off games. They're always susceptible to chances. This was the first game for goalkeeper Jan Sommer that they signed to replace the injured Manuel Neuer.
Gladbach.
The only positive is that Choupo-Moting continues his goal scoring form this season.
Yeah, that's what they are missing Lewandowski. They need to try and get a world class striker in the summer. I think that's got to be their main goal. I don't know who they'll bring in, but I think that is where they've got to strengthen. What do you think, King?
Yeah, definitely. Leipzig was unlucky not to win that, and Bayern then followed that draw up with a 1-1 to Cologne on Tuesday night as well. So they're definitely struggling to find the goals. But Leipzig looking really good, followed their 1-1 up with Bayern Munich with a 6-1 away win to Schalke. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of goals in the Bundesliga at the moment. And that goes on to Cologne, which was our next game. And that's Cologne 7, Werder Bremen 1. And shocking defending. And Cologne with 7 goals. Do you want to get us started on that, Boom?
With 7 goals, you wouldn't think that Cologne are in 10th position in this league, but they are. But they absolutely smashed Werder Bremen. A complete demolished job from them. Werder Bremen did get themselves a goal back with a bit of a consolation in the first half, but the game was pretty much done by the end of the first half, and then the second half they just added 2 more just to finish the thing. And the last one was an own goal, which just capitulated Werder Bremen's day.
Yeah, it was not a good day in the office for
But the only good thing about Werder Bremen is that they do sit in 11th, so it hasn't affected them too bad.
Yeah. What do you think about that game, King?
Yeah, I think the first one went in, the floodgates opened. 9 minutes, the first one went in. They had 5 by 36. Yeah. Werder Bremen aren't. They've moved up since the last time I've seen. They're still only 4 points off the playoff.
Werder Bremen
place.
They are in 11th, and Werder Bremen they accidentally followed up that loss with another loss against Union Berlin, who were trying to stay in that top 4.
Yes. Now it's on to our topic of the week, and this week we are talking about are Manchester United reunited under Erik ten Hag. Obviously, quite a few things to talk about at the moment. What's going on at the club with the ownership about to change hand, takeovers, very close. A few interesting parties, which we'll go into in a minute. And Erik ten Hag, who's doing a amazing job. Did you want to get us started? Boom. Erik ten Hag and the atmosphere.
Togetherness. That was the main problem from last season. Is the atmosphere. The players were completely not a team. They were all disjointed. And that was a big task coming into United this season, is how do you get that team ethic back together? We saw it didn't start straight away, because we saw at the beginning of the season, the Brighton result and the Brentford result completely non-existent. But ever since that Liverpool game, you started seeing the progress of them coming closer and closer together. And that's really been more emphasized after the World Cup break. This one, when the run of 10 games on the field before that Arsenal game.
Yeah.
That's really, and we even saw it against in the Carabao Cup run of like started Burnley, then Charlton, and now the first leg against Forest has been very good atmosphere. And the team look, even when they make one clearance, they're all high-fiving and celebrating.
Yeah.
Like everyone's been involved in that one clearance.
Yeah.
I've not seen that in the last like 5 years of United.
Yeah, we have it was like always blame each other. And also what I haven't seen is like when something goes wrong, it was always the same. Like last season, it was always the same. Bruno would go on Twitter.
And so would Rashford. So would Rashford go like, we should have done better.
And it was like they were copying the same thing every week and nothing was getting done to fix that. So it just, fans just got annoyed every time they saw it. They didn't say, oh, thanks for apologising.
And I saw a stat that added
about it.
Man United are ranked 3rd in the most clean sheets in Europe this season.
Yeah.
With 15, tied with Barcelona, and the only one that has kept more clean sheets in Europe is Newcastle with 16.
Yeah, they have been very good, Newcastle. What do you think starting this first part of the debate, King?
Yeah, I think things are clicking a bit better. The signings that they brought in the summer are doing quite well. They've definitely come a long way since losing 4-0 to Brentford. But yeah, I don't think you can put them fighting with Arsenal. So if you take the Arsenal result out, they haven't lost really since they lost to Villa on the 6th of November. So it's a good run. Hopefully they can keep it up from your points of view and get into the top 4. I don't think they'll be doing much business in the January window because of the sale, but yeah, they're doing all right.
Any business in this window is just going to be loans because of the sale, potentially one more. But
yeah, it looks like we are trying to look for one more attacker on loan, but like that, it really depends on if there is any attackers where we can get it.
I think someone like an attacking midfielder who can play like cover up top as well would be ideal. I think that is where we're really missing cover for Bruno. We have got no cover for Bruno in that 10 role.
Yeah, he scored a quality goal last night.
Technically, if we had decent cover for Eriksen, technically Eriksen could be cover for Bruno, because they both normally play at number 10, but we've used Eriksen more as like behind Bruno because we really have no one else.
Yeah,
around the midfield in general.
Yeah, and I think they play well together. So I think that I'm glad they're playing them as a free. But next we had our transfers. So in the summer, we signed Anthony, Casemiro, Martinez, Christian Eriksen, Malacia, and then in this January, Jack Butland and Weghorst. So did you want to get us started on transfers? Boom. Who have you been impressed with the most?
Yeah, it has to be Casemiro. I've been impressed with them. That man has just. We were crying out for years for that defensive midfielder, and he's gone into that position and really made it. It seems like he's been in the Premier League for the past 5 seasons.
Yeah,
he did not really need that much. He struggled in like the first game he started, but after that, he just did not seem like he was. Never. It seemed like he was always in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's his attitude as well. Like I was reading I think I mentioned it on the podcast a few weeks back. He was watching when it wasn't Root came out yet about the transfer, but he was watching the Brentford game at home, and he turned around and called his agent and said, "I'll sort this out."
And other signings, I love Martinez. That his energy just fills the team. That's what I want in my centre back. Just that kind of.
He just gives you Vidic vibes, doesn't he?
He's a crazy man, but he has a brain. He's a crazy man with a brain. And even Luke Shaw has really stepped up to the plate, not in the centre back position. Anthony, there's a bit of with that signing. It's a bit of like up in the air with Anthony at the moment because of the price tag.
But if you look at his numbers, they've
but he has done quite well. But I'm under the impression, like I told my dad and stuff when we were talking about Anthony and stuff, I won't really judge him till next season. I'll give him the season to adapt to this new league. I gave Sancho a season before I said I don't think we've gotten the proper Sancho at all. So hopefully he comes back, Sancho, and does well with this one. But like I'm gonna give Anthony the time I gave to Sancho, which is a full season.
Yeah, definitely. And you've got
Malacia, high energy. He's definitely pushed Shaw onto the next level, which I like that he's energetic. He's not quite the complete left back just yet, Malacia, but there's potential there. And Eriksen as a free transfer was a stroke of genius.
Yeah,
I don't know. He is second most assists in the league, I believe.
Yeah,
he's up there in the assist charts, but he's just even when he's not playing well. Eriksen in the game, he still gets an assist.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really like Eriksen. I questioned signing at first because he had his moment. Like he was like when he was at Spurs, it was a few times though his like up and down in form. But just the story of it, like how obviously the tragic thing that happened to him in the last World Cup, to have that injury, the Euro, sorry, and then have that injury, people thought his career was over. Inter Milan terminate his contract. He goes to Brentford, does amazing, and then gets a free transfer to Manchester United. It's just an amazing story. Really,
King, what did you think of our signings from an outside perspective?
I think the Casemiro one was the big one, wasn't it? I think that's worked quite well. But a player of that quality, you'd expect him to be able to come into the Premier League. He's played Champions Leagues. He's won Champions Leagues. He's played World Cups. He's played South America Copa, whatever it's called.
Copa America,
yeah. Sorry, my mind just went blank. Mm-hmm. So I didn't expect him to struggle. But he's probably been the best one. I'd say second best would be Eriksen. I think because Casemiro come in, Eriksen sort of goes under the radar a lot. But like you said, he gets a lot of assists. His passing quality is like, he's up there with the best. You know what I mean? Martinez has done well, although he has missed a fair few games recently. So
because he was too drunk. He was like Jono, too drunk after his party.
Yeah. But I mean, he came in and shored up the defence to start off with, and even though he hasn't been in the team anymore, it's still been quite solid at the back. They maybe are leaking a few more goals recently, but now they're scoring them in the attacking areas to compensate. Maybe conceding 2, they'll score 3.
Weghorst has done about as much as I'd expected him to do when he came in. He's not really the prolific goal scorer in the Premier League.
I think Malacia was a good signing as well. I think he's done quite well. I think left back was a position they probably needed to strengthen it. I think Woot's only played like 1 or 2 now, hasn't he? I think he'll be a decent signing as cover.
He got a goal against Forest and but fair play to it. But we more got him for his pressing and build-up play, which he's done quite well in.
And the thing is, you needed somebody to be able to cover Martial because let's face it, Martial isn't always the most consistent and does have his injury problems at times. So I think for a loan signing, I don't think you can knock it really. But I'd definitely say Casemiro. Casemiro for me and Eriksen, I think have transformed that midfield.
For years, we have been overrunning that midfield. We haven't had a proper DM, I would say, for at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, for the past like 3 seasons, it's been Bruno and McFred.
Yeah, every window, United fan, we need a DM. We need a DM. We need a DM, and it's just not happened. And they've just like tried to paper the cracks, but having that DM has released and being us to have that line higher, with the defense being also more secure. We've had to be able to move that line up, which we haven't before. I can't say anything bad about him. I love him. Next, after the transfers, the Glazers, they have finally decided to put the club on sale, kind of forced. They've got a lot to do. They've got to pay for the stadium redevelopment or / rebuild, depending what side you're on that debate, which I'm sure we'll get onto in a minute. It's a big part of it. The training, same with the training ground. And so in November, it came out, the Glazers put the club up for sale. We've had our first person come out officially and say that he is in the bidding, and that is Jim Ratcliffe, which we all expected. He's been rumoured for a while. Rumours from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, other Middle and Eastern countries. Obviously, there's always going to be links to America because of the Glazers. So, did you want to get us started on this, Boom and King?
Well, the owner situation, they never wanted to put money into infrastructure in the club. They wanted it to just be good on the pitch and to earn them money. That's their entire thing. The brand of United could just always earn money, but it's got to a point where we haven't won trophies in ages. The team is not successful, therefore you're losing money each year that we don't get any success, or even the Champions League in some years, that it eventually got to a point where all the things are outdated. They need investment. We're one of the only teams in the Premier League to not have a screen for VAR.
Yeah.
That when VAR happens, no one knows what's happening in Old Trafford. Yep. Only the ref does, which is every other team. People in the stadium will know what's happening because it will flash up on the screen. There's none of that at Old Trafford. It's falling apart. It's leaking during storms.
Yeah.
The training ground is apparently terrible compared to every other training ground in the Premier League.
Yeah, like
there's a lot of money that needs to be invested, and the Glazers don't want to spend their own money on it. So they've done this thing where they were looking for investment and considering a full sale, which more and more as it goes on, all the reports are saying they're definitely looking for a full sale.
Yeah, and I think that's
they want to cash, because with Erik pulling up the results, they want to cash out while it's big and profitable at the moment, because Erik is turning it into that with results wise on the pitch. They're hoping that boosts up the price.
Yeah, and the share price the day they announced, which was funny enough, they tried to nick the headline by announcing it on the same day as sacking Ronaldo. That doubled the price of our share price after that announcement that the Glazers were putting the club up for sale, which just proves the problem. And fans wanting them out. But do you want to get us started on Jim Ratcliffe? And King, you jump in where you want to.
Yeah, Ratcliffe is we know he's a United fan. He said that before. This time he went in a little too late for Chelsea. He wanted Chelsea, but his bid went in way too late. So this time he's going in first. He's the first man that goes, I want it. And he's going in with it, probably anticipating the American investors and the Saudi and Qatar kind of Dubai area. He's gone in with his company, Ineos, to add a bit more money rather than just Jim himself.
Yeah, because I think Jim, he's the richest man in the UK, but I don't think he's got enough money on his own.
So he's gone in with his as his brand more so than as himself this time.
Yeah,
and he hasn't gone in with anyone yet. Like even Hamilton said he was not a part of it.
Yeah, there was rumours about that. There's rumours about there's a player as well that on his bid potentially. I don't know
that is not nothing has come to that yet. He's going in by himself with his company.
Yeah, I know. Beckham said that he'd be interested in any potential being in part of any consortium and any potential bid. So, what do you think on Ratcliffe, King?
Yeah, I've heard about him quite a lot. He owns Nice. He has a few football teams, doesn't he? I think.
Yeah.
He was going in for Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think the stumbling block is a bit with him is the price. I think he wants to pay what the guys are asking, which, to be honest, I don't think anybody is. unless you're going to splash money out from the Saudis or something. But it might be good for somebody like that to get his hands on the club. He's a long life Man U fan, so that might be good. I wonder whether the Saudis and that are going to invest in one of these top teams, because they could buy one of the smaller clubs just outside the top 6 for a lot cheaper of the price, pump money in, and end up probably making more offer. I think with the money that's got to be spent on the stadium, the training facilities,
ground,
everything needs updating. Then you're going to have to put money in for players,
for transfers.
It's just a lot. Like with the active
because the thing is, you need to have like the $6 billion to buy it, and then like another couple, like 4 or 5 billion afterwards to invest.
Well, to build Tottenham's ground, wasn't that like £1 billion or something?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you need 6 to buy the club outright, and then you need like another like 5 billion after that to invest in.
Well, if they want to build a new Old Trafford, that's going to be £1 billion.
They're
going to have to spend.
The prices have come out because it's the same. They're talking to the same developers who built the new Spurs Stadium. So they've come up with 2 projects. One is the redevelopment of Old Trafford, and they've been quoted £1 billion for that, or a brand new state-of-the-art stadium, and that's been quoted at £2 billion. So any potential buyer, that's the first decision they've got to make, is you're going to spend £6 billion on the club and then spend another £1 billion to £2 billion straight away as your first purchase, basically.
Well, I think
and that's not even with the training ground.
Been advised not to spend more than £3 billion on the purchase of Man U. So I don't know. I don't know whether £6 billion is the asking price. I'm not too sure, to be honest. I don't keep up to date on Man U as much as obviously you guys do.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of money to be purchasing for £6 billion, and then you've got either £1 billion or £2 billion. Then you're going to have to probably invest in the squad over the next few windows, another £1 billion. Then you've got the training ground hasn't been updated. I think was it 10 years or something? I was reading.
That was part of Ronaldo's interview. He said when that all came out, he said in his interview that it's exactly the same from when he left the club. Nothing has changed.
This is the thing, isn't it? Them selling the club and stuff like that was a knock-on effect from the interview. So I mean, I know Man U fans aren't really happy with how Ronaldo left and came out with his interview.
Apparently, they were
maybe they should be thanking him.
No, apparently they were thinking of in the background. They were already thinking about selling, but the timing of them releasing it was very strategic. They released the news of them. They were going to wait till like near the summer to release.
Didn't they want to sell a couple of years ago when the club was in sort of dire straits?
Yeah, they were going to announce that they were looking for investment. That was going to be closer to like now the new year, but they released the news way early because of the Ronaldo story.
I think the hand was just forced a bit, weren't it?
The hand was forced to announce it then because they were going to get a lot of backlash for the Ronaldo interview, so they needed a story to completely squash it.
Well, plus you couldn't have a player of that higher profile come out and say all this stuff about Manchester United, especially when most of it was true as well. And then sit there and then come out rosy from it, because let's face it, Man U fans aren't going to stand for that, are they? Man U fans want to be top of the tree. And so maybe there should be, after their history over the last 20 odd years or something in the Premier League. But to stay top of the tree, you've got to be investing. There's new technologies all the time, and if you're not investing and staying at them levels of Arsenal and Man City and Tottenham, there's going to be drop-offs. There is.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, like it's a disgrace that one of the biggest clubs, arguably in the world, like it's on the list, is like to not have a screen for VAR. Yeah. Every club has a screen. The VAR decisions, except for Old Trafford, has no indication of when VAR is being used.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Burnley had the worst budget in Premier League history. Even they had a screen. So,
before they get a screen in, they might want to make sure they're filling them holes. So Doris, 90-year-old Doris from Salford, don't get wet every time it rains. You know what I mean?
Yeah. did make me laugh though, and I don't think Jim Ratcliffe will get it because I don't think he can compete with
It
Dubai,
depends on who
who
comes.
is the
It depends who
rumoured
comes
next
in.
bidder.
He can compete with like the American people when they come in. He can be
Yeah.
you can arguably compete with them. It depends on if the rumored of the Middle Eastern investment comes in, or if they do what King said and maybe look at a different club than Manchester United for the price tag. We'll see what happens with that. But at the moment, there's no movement from the Middle East, but the rumor that they're going to.
There's a lot of rumours that they're going to.
The strongest rumour that they are going to, and that is Dubai, because they're the only one of the big Middle Eastern clubs. So you've got Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the guys who own Man City, that don't currently have a club, and they love competing against each other. That's their thing. They like throwing money at it.
The guys that own Man City, where are they from?
They're Dubai's neighbours. I can't remember what they're called.
So I was under the influence that if you owned a club or had stakes in a club in the Premier League, you couldn't own another club. I know that PSG.
Abu Dhabi is the
and then you've got the people from Newcastle. Where are they from? Saudi. So you've got the owners. I'm sure it's the owners of PSG. They want to come in for somewhere, and I know that they've been having meetings with different clubs.
That's why the rumors of them only going for small investments in the club rather than full sale, because they don't want to lose PSG. But if they wanted to fully buy a club, with some rumors are trying to say they need to sell PSG, because you can't own two clubs in the same competition.
I don't know. Wow, then Jim Radcliffe would have to sell Nice.
That's what I was just about to get on.
If they get into Europe.
I thought it was in the same league. I thought it was in the same.
No, it's in the same competition. Say if Nice got Champions League and United got Champions, there's a conflict. You would have to sell one of them then.
I know that the meetings that these people from the Qatar, Dubai, whatever, they've had a meeting with Tottenham. They've had a meeting with Aston Villa. I'm sure there's another team they've had a meeting of that's around that sort of like.
Yeah, Liverpool as well.
But what you said there, King, is why Nice are concerned, because if Jim Radcliffe buys United, then you pretty much he's not going to want Nice to get into the Champions League. So therefore, you become where are you going to go from there?
Yeah.
Because don't Man City's group own like 11 clubs around the world, and none of them in the same competitions.
No, I think that
you can own multiple.
Genoa,
you can own multiple clubs if they don't make it into the same competition. If any of them made it into the Champions League with Man City, they would have to sell one of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was it's an interesting one. On the Jim Radcliffe thing and the Qatar thing, I was thinking about it the other day. If he doesn't have the money and Qatar want to invest into it but don't want a complete takeover, I wouldn't be surprised if a rumour came out with Jim Radcliffe being backed by the Qatar. Because if Qatar don't want a full takeover and they can do a consortium with, let's say, Jim Radcliffe, for example, is he's the one who's come out, that could make the difference that he can't afford the club.
I was just going to say this, with the amount of money that Man U are wanting for the club and the amount of investment that the new owner are going to have to put in, it's probably going to end up being a consortium of a couple of people coming in, because it's not just like one person's going to fork out £10 billion on buying a club, upgrading everything, putting a bit of money in for transfers and then coming away with change. You know what I mean? That's a lot of money, even for these super rich. So it's probably going to be sort of maybe a couple of groups come together and do it, but I think it's still early days, isn't it? At the minute, we've only got one person in the hat.
It's rumored that beginning of February is when we're going to get more. They're going to fully go formal. Everyone is at that point. Jim Radcliffe has just jumped the gun to try and get in first to put himself into a good position.
Well, what the Rain Group are saying, the Rain Group is the ones in charge of the sale. That's the same people who sold Chelsea from Roman Abramovich. The Glazers put the same people in charge. But what they're saying, they want people to come out with the names of saying, we're interested now. Then when you're interested, you get our bank details, so you can see all the accounts. So Jim Radcliffe has currently got access to all our accounts. As soon as that's happened, they want all official bids in by mid-February to complete a purchase by March. Is the scale they want. I don't think that's realistic, but that's what they're currently saying.
I can see why they want that, because Man U probably want the sale done before the summer window opens, so it doesn't affect the rebuilding project that's going on at Man U. Because the worst thing that can happen with this sale is it rumbles on and it rumbles on and it affects the summer window, because then it's going to start affecting Ten Hag's rebuilding project, and that's going to make the process of Man U taking their team to the next level even longer. If they're not willing to put any money in January because of the takeover, that may linger on into the summer. That could be a worrying sign. So I can understand why they want to do that. Plus, if they are setting these deadlines, it means that they are very serious about it, and they probably will.
And plus, they wanted it done early because you have to do the owners' background checks that the Premier League likes to do these days.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll see.
Hello, chatter from Twitch, Brian.
Yeah, hello. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of all of that. We'll see what happens the rest of the season. So now we move on to Boom's Fantasy Premier League update. So over to you, Boom. Who's dead to you this week?
You see, the previous weeks it was Harry Kane last week for not doing anything when his team bottled it against City. It was Haaland the week before where I called him a fraud. He's no longer a fraud, like I said earlier. He's back 34 points as my captain this week. And even Kane managed to get 6 points for his goal. So they're both out of the bad books this week. You could have people like James Ward-Prowse down there, but Villa, good win. He got unfortunate with that. But the player dead to me this week is Luke Shaw. Now, I'm a fan of Luke Shaw, but in the 83rd minute, you lunge in on Saka, you get yourself a yellow card, and you cost me all my points for him.
Yeah.
Unacceptable. Luke Shaw going from at least having a point to your name to then having 0.
Yep. And how is the league looking this week? Who's had a good week, Boom?
Who's had a good week? Well, despite my anger for Luke Shaw, I have gone up from 10th to 8th position myself. So looking good. Back up at the top of the league though is our man GG513.
Oh, he's
back.
Managed
to get himself back up. Shaughnessy has jumped Lucas to 2nd, so Shaughnessy is now 2nd. He's now the closest competitor to GG. It's very close between them. There's 1277 for GG and 1275 for Shaughnessy.
Oh, remember the winner of this will get a print by FM Hub. So yes.
So the top 3 are very close within touching distance of each other in this league. So scorers for GG this week, he had Haaland. Everyone has him as a captain these days. He also had Trippier. He also suffered from the player that's dead to me this week in Luke Shaw. He managed to vice captain De Bruyne, so got him 6 points with that one. And he had Saka and Rashford in his team, so they got him a decent amount of points for that one. And Shaughnessy did raise up to 2nd place this week, so we'll see what things he had. He had Kepa going for that, having faith for Chelsea to at least keep a clean sheet against Liverpool there. He had Trippier and Saka. He had 2 Newcastle defenders with Akanji. So backing on that Man City and Newcastle defense to keep a clean sheet, which is a very good move to do. And he had the usual De Bruyne, Rashford, Odegaard, and Bruno Fernandes with Kane and Haaland. And one for And one for King, he had Leon Bailey
Ooh.
in his team.
Yeah.
So King will be happy with that. I will tell you. You want me to tell you where you are, John, on this week?
Do I want to know?
I don't know. Do you? You're still in 26th, my friend.
I'm not last, so it's fine.
You're not last. That is still.
Is it still Gormy? How is the whole team doing? Let's have a look. It's a hard team update. How is the team performing?
Gormy's trusted. He trusted Brighton to keep a clean sheet with his keeper. Is not too the best, and he trusted Forest and Arsenal to keep a clean sheet this week. In his defenders, not the best decision, but he did Trippier in there, so there's that. He trusted Martinelli, Almiron, and Eriksson. Neither of those three actually did anything this week, so not the greatest of bets. But he had the usual De Bruyne or Haaland. It does well.
Yeah.
But had Mitrovic in there, who didn't do too well for him. So not the best. And that's pretty much most of that team. But their team isn't even on this.
Yeah.
So that's basically it this week. It's going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks before we get to the end of this thing to crown our winner. That battle between GG513, Shaughnessy, and Lucas.
Yeah. So thanks for that. Boom. So, King, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitch on twitch.tv/FMKing007 or on the Road to Legends podcast, or not Road to Legends podcast, Football Nation podcast, or Road to Legends Draft panel.
You got there in the end.
I'm on that much, mate. I can't keep up.
Busy man.
Boom, where can we find you?
Crazy Boom __ on both Twitter and Twitch, and Boompool on YouTube, and on the Football Nation podcast, because I know the name of this podcast. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave that one down anymore.
And you can find me on the Football Nation podcast, your home of all things football. The Road to Legends in the background. I'm still running it, but more of a background role now with King there. And you can find me at jono.tv on Twitter. Yes, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, turn that bell so you never miss an upload. A lot of content coming your way. So we will see you next week on the Football Nation. You've all been legends. Good night.